Dear all participants, I welcome to all of you for this our new session about the museums in Sikkim. And I also welcome to Prithviraj Srivastavji here. I am very happy to say that all of you,
Thank you.
the scene which is behind me is real. It's original because now I am on the border of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Rajji, I request to you, yes, you're most welcome. Please mute the sound because some sound disturbance is here. So, first of all, just I want to introduce Prithviraj ji. Oh, first, just I want to introduce Prithviraj ji. He is worked in Partition Museum.
Hello.
I'm very sorry because of this networking issues. Here are a lot of problems. I request Prithviraj ji to please start our today's session. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hi. My name is Prithviraj
Yes.
Srivastav. Uh, I am a student of museology. Like I have done my master's in museology from National Museum Institute. After that, I have worked in National Museum in the Jatan department. I have worked in Partition Museum Amritsar, and I also take several museum projects myself. So today I am presenting the topic of museums in Sikkim to you all. I would like to thank you all to join this meeting, and let us start with the presentation. Just a second. I am audible to everyone, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Now you can see your
Okay.
presentation also.
Okay.
You please click on the hide button just beside the stop sharing. Please click hide button. Hide, hide.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so should I start now?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the topic is museums in Sikkim. But before we start this topic, let us talk about when we look into this concept of looking into a museum of a specific geographical area. What generally people try to look into the museum, or when they visit the museum, what they are trying to explore is. So if somebody from outside of India is coming to India and he is visiting Indian museum, he will be exploring the history of that particular place. He will be exploring the culture of that particular place, and that same logical approaches by the audiences applies whenever they visit a small state or a small place, and that's their museum. So the question of representation is there. So by far, I guess you have wrote it down the definition of museums, but again, for this slide, let me retell you the definition of museum as per the ICOM. A museum is a non-profit permanent institution in the service of society and its development, open to the public, which acquires, conserves, researches, communicates, and exhibits the tangible and intangible heritage of humanity and its environment for the purpose of education, study, and enjoyment. So here I have highlighted the society and its development and its environment, because when we talk about Sikkim, which is like one of the least known state in India. So Sikkim by size is the second largest state of India, and by population is the least populous state of India. Only 6 lakh people reside in Sikkim. If you count the museums in Sikkim, there are like 6 museums, and then there are 2 army museums. So in total, there are like 8 museums only, private, government, all included in all. So the question of representation of Sikkim is very debatable. Like how much people know about Sikkim, how much Indians know about Sikkim. So when we talk about Northeast, so previously there used to be 7 states in Northeast, the 7 sisters, but now they have added Sikkim to 7 sisters and 1 brother to it. So that adds some government approach towards educating people about Sikkim. But when we go further about this, so society and development, we talk about in perspective of Sikkim, we see like the museums should work as an influencer, educating and guiding the local population towards the cultural roots of the society and keeping the traditions alive. So in this matter, we are talking about a society which is changing very fast. If you talk about Sikkim, there is a lot of migration going out. People educate there, or even for education, people are migrating and then they are settling outside. And slowly, those traditional grounds, those traditional values are losing. And I am not saying like we can stop the change is inevitable, but museums here work as a preserver. Museums here work as an institution which can frame the time. So as an influencer, it's working. And in Sikkim, when I visited few museums, I saw that it's working up to the mark to conserve it, up to the mark to exhibit it, but there is a need to. We will discuss that further in the lecture. Then as a tourist attraction, increasing not only the state income, but also the awareness about it. So specifically in Sikkim or some other small states like Goa or some states of Northeast or even Ladakh, if a tourist visits a museum can work like a very informative center where a person can know about the culture, know about the land, know about the place, and it is also an authentic institution giving information about the place. So a museum can definitely in small states work as a tourist attraction. It can itself be an attraction, and it can be a point where you get to know about the state and visit other places. The third point is as a preserver of rich heritage, conserving them for the best possible duration and making the tangible proofs of history available to the audiences. Again, I'm just repeating myself, I guess, that what the job of museum is. So we go further and we discuss about the other aspect of Sikkim, which is that Sikkim is naturally very rich. So the entire land of Sikkim is covered by the alpines, the mountains, the tea plantation is there, but also there are like more than 50 flora and fauna, which makes Sikkim very ecologically rich. So with respect to the museums of the state like Sikkim, which is geographically or ecologically rich with some unique biodiversities, there comes a general approach of showing these natural heritage to the audiences. So here, what I am talking about is a need or a major need of a museum which is showing the natural heritage, because as we discussed in the definition of museum, it's also about the tangible and intangible heritage of humanity and its environment. So here I feel the need of eco museum should be there. Eco museum is now trending. It started in 1970s from France, but now eco museums are trending in India too. And Sikkim is actually in need of a eco museum. And what a eco museum is basically, so eco museum is a museum, you can say, without the boundary walls. A village can be a eco museum. It's self-sustained. People are being promoted to live in the lifestyle they are living for past thousands of years, and then people visit that place and relive that era. So that's kind of a eco museum. You can also build a eco museum which is naturally beautiful, or you can sustain the natural heritage through the eco museums, what many countries are doing, like in Vietnam and other places. So going further, now let us introduce ourselves to the state of Sikkim. So as I said, like Sikkim is the second largest state of India, second smallest state of India, and least populous state of India. So when you look at the map of Sikkim, you will see like it's surrounded by international neighbors of ours. One side there is Nepal, one side China, like Tibet occupied by China, and then you see Bhutan touching the eastern Sikkim part, which is like the most populous region in the Sikkim, and North Sikkim is the least populous region in the Sikkim, because mountain Kanchenjunga is there, the Himalayan belt is there, and 33% of Sikkim is inhabitable with no population, as it's declared UNESCO World Heritage Site. So population wise, mostly in East Sikkim, you will find the population. Only 4 districts are there, 9 sub districts. Total population, as I have written in the PPT, 620,000, that is 620,000. And the Gangtok is the capital of Sikkim. So before we go further, I will also like to tell you an interesting story about the name Sikkim. So in Sikkim, there are basically 3 communities, but the name comes from when, hello? Okay. So the name comes from when the Alimu girl, which is a community in eastern Nepal, marries a Lepcha boy. Lepcha is a community in Sikkim, like the community of Sikkim. So she calls this land, this new home, when she marries, Suhim. That later on became Sukhim. And then people started calling it Sikkim. So you see that name itself of the state is an origin of a cultural exchange. So Sikkim is a land of cultural exchange. So let me read about Sikkim a little further. Sikkim is a state in northeast India bordered by Bhutan, Tibet, and Nepal, part of Himalayas. The area has dramatic landscape that includes India's highest mountain, 8586-meter Kanchenjunga, and 8848 is Mount Everest. Sikkim is also home to glaciers, alpines, meadows, thousands of varieties of wildflowers. Steep paths lead to hilltop, Buddhist monasteries, and Buddhism and Hinduism is the major religion in Sikkim. You can say Buddhism is more prevalent in Sikkim. Such Buddhist monasteries as Payangatis, which dates early at 17th century. So this culturally diverse land holds a rich heritage and history in itself. And today's topic will also dig into the need of museums there, or what kind of museums are there. And so these are some scenic beauty of Sikkim. So Before we go further, we whenever we talk about the museums, we do talk about its surroundings, its locality. Uh, the place is surrounded by what population, the place is in what culture. So the same we are doing here. We are going and understanding the land and people of Sikkim. So there are principally three ethnic communities in Sikkim, that is Lepchas, which is also called Rongs, Bhutias, and Nepalis. So Nepali population is a major influence in Sikkim now. Another is the major crops of Sikkim is maize, paddy, wheat, millets. Very less, very sustainable, but for source of income, or you can say cash crops, is cardamom and ginger. Animal husbandry is also prevalent. And an interesting fact about Sikkim's agriculture is Sikkim is India's first organic state. So whatever they are producing in Sikkim is all organic. And then there are some traditional games in Sikkim, which is Dhoko, Dasta, and kite flying. Dhoko is a game where they compete like shot put, so they throw stones. And Dasta is archery, Tir Dhanush, and kite flying is another important. So if we look at the people of Sikkim, so the first images are Nepali couple living in Sikkim. So they dress similarly in Nepal too as they dress in Sikkim. Then the Lepcha community, which is the oldest community living in Sikkim, and then the Bhutia. So below you see the yak farming. Yak farming is depleting now in Sikkim. The government is taking major steps to further uh, repopulate the population of yaks in Sikkim. And then cardamom garden. So cardamom is the basic spices, the main spices which is grown in Sikkim. There are many festivals, dances in Sikkim, but the main worship they do is, so more than half of the Sikkim worships or believes in Buddhism. So Buddha and the shrines and the monasteries. And then there is also a very strong belief by the Buddhists and Hindus both in worship of Mount Kanchenjunga. So Mount Kanchenjunga is very holy to them, and they consider climbing over Kanchenjunga as a sin, major sin. Then there are some festival like Pan Lapsol, worship of snowy ranges, related to this belief only. Then Bamchu, Lasung. Then there are many Hindu and Buddhist festivals. Some Hindu festivals common to the northern state of India also. So the famous dance of Sikkim is Cham, which is a 3-day dance festival. Very slowly they dance, and it is very mystic to watch it. Like if you visit Sikkim and you get a chance to, in any festival you go, they will perform Cham. And then the language spoken there is mainly Nepalese, but along with Bhutia, Gurung, Lepcha, Limbu, etc. But if you understand Nepali in Sikkim, you mostly understand all the languages of Sikkim. These are some pictures of the festivals being there. Uh, and we talk about the linguistic diversity. I told you like 62.6% of Sikkim speaks Nepali, and after that comes the Sikkimese or that Bhutia language, and then the other languages. Now we move to the main topic, which is museums in Sikkim. So as I told you, there are very few museums in Sikkim. Name wise, we will go. So Ramgauri Sangrahalaya is a private museum, which is a work of two generations. These individuals have dedicated themselves in preserving the heritage, the culture of Sikkim. So when I talk about the museums in Sikkim, there is a overlap about the Buddhist culture, Tibetan culture, and Sikkim culture. So because this state of Sikkim was heavily influenced by the Buddhist religion, by the Tibetan ideology and influences, most people look at Sikkim in a manner that they are looking at Tibet. So this museum, specifically Ramgauri Sangrahalaya, is a museum which talks about the Sikkim, the population of Sikkim, not about the influence of Tibet. Then there comes Namgyal Institute of Tibetology, which is like the biggest museum in Sikkim. And this particular museum deals with the Tibetan collection, with the collection of Buddhism, related to Buddhist art, related to Buddhist practices, and they have a very rich collection of manuscripts. They also have a library, so it is a very big institute under which they have built their own museum. And then there is Sikkim Science Center. So only one science museum in Sikkim, which is Sikkim Science Center. And Sikkim Science Center, compared to other museums, maybe it may look like not aesthetically very pleasing, but they have taken in mind the education of the primary school and secondary school. And in that respect, I'll say the Sikkim Science Center is very well converted a book into a museum. Like when you visit the museum, you can very well read the chapters by looking at it, especially biology, how the humankind organs function and etc. Then there is Directorates of Handicrafts and Handloom, which is basically an institution which is dedicated to promote handicrafts and handlooms of Sikkim by training the people there, by selling the objects. So this is one of the most dedicated handicraft and handloom institution in India, I will say, because they not only are trying to promote the sales, but they are trying to teach, they are trying to take the trainees in. They are opening centers, and they have like 62 centers across Sikkim. As I told you, like Sikkim is a very small state, and having 62 centers in Sikkim makes like this Directorates of Handicrafts and Handlooms is accessible at every place of Sikkim. Then there is Lepcha Museum. Lepcha is again one of the ethnic community there, and this particular museum tries to collect handicrafts, manuscripts, musical instruments, dresses, everything which is related to the Lepcha community. But we'll see further how these museums are built and how the collections are there. Then is Sikkim Flower Show Museum. So during this season, March and April, Sikkim is all covered with the flowers, and they have a museum which showcases all these tropical flowers, all these flowers of Sikkim. So they also have they have many specimen of botanical collections there. So Sikkim Flower Museum is one thing which is like naturally representing Sikkim. The only one museum in Sikkim which is representing the nature or the natural beauty or the natural heritage of the Sikkim. Then about Sikkim, if we go in detail, so this Sikkim state was founded in 17th century, and then in 1890 it came under the British rule. So after independence, it became a protectorate of India. It was not part of India. And in 1975, the army took over the capital, and then it became the 22nd state of India. So 1947 to 1975, it was under India, but not part of India. So the army influence now is very much in Sikkim, and it is not like how you imagine army influence in Sikkim, Kashmir, but it's very peaceful there, even though it's surrounded by many international borders. But due to the high ranges, it's very inaccessible, and there are just very few passes to pass, but army influence is there. And with their presence, they have also built few museums in Sikkim, that is to name Black Cat Museums in the capital itself, and then Ganju Lama War Museum. There is another museum also, but I had no pictures of it, but I'll tell you the story of that museum. That is called Baba Harbhajan Singh Museum in Sikkim. And then they have this High Court Museum of Sikkim. So these are the museums in Sikkim. Plus there is another museum coming in Sikkim, the Sikkim State Museum. They are trying to build the largest museum of Sikkim now, and they are researching over it. The construction is almost started, and the research process is on this way. So what they are trying to is unifiedly present Sikkim there. They are trying to tell the story of how Sikkim became part of India, and they are trying to promote the cultural heritage of Sikkim there. So let us start our introduction to the museums of Sikkim with Namgyal Institute of Technology. which was built in 1958. So established in 1958. The museum at Namgyal Institute of Tibetology is a rich repository of all known Tibetan books and religious articles of Mahayana Buddhism. So in Buddhism, there are two sects, that's Mahayana and Hinayana, and Mahayana is the most popular now. So as I told you, like this museum is dedicated to the ideology of Tibetan ideology of Buddhism, which is also prevalent in Ladakh. So they collect, preserve, exhibit this particular type of a collection, which is more Buddhist oriented or more Tibet oriented. But with the collection, now you can say in the world outside of Tibet or China, this particular museum is the is the most collective items related to Tibetan or Mahayana Buddhism. So you can see few photographs of inside the museum. This on the very left is the main doorway from where you enter. All the things I'm talking about the museums of Sikkim is in my memory because last time I visited Sikkim was in 2016. After that, I never got a chance, but I went to this particular museum. I went to a few more museums. So now they must have changed a little bit, but these are the latest photographs available on the internet. So going further, the museum houses religious icons, traditional art objects, thankas, as well as original manuscripts, Sanskrit, Tibetan, Chinese, and Lepcha, all related to the Mahayana Buddhism. So about this starting, so Dalai Lama, when he got exiled from Tibet and he came to India on February 10th, 1957, he established the museum. And then the prime motive of the institute was to preserve and promote the Tibetan art and craft, which it is doing very well. Like, and then the institute welcomed theologists and religion-based academicians, which led to the further research and collection of the Tibetan objects, one of the leading collection of Tibetan objects in the world. So this particular Namgyal. So when we talk about this particular museum, it is also being promoted by our first Prime Minister, Sri Jawaharlal Nehru ji. So he was also keenly interested in protecting Sikkim and making Sikkim a part of India. And then he promoted the Tibetan studies there. So if we talk about the prime collections in Namgyal Institute of Tibetology, there is, so in this picture you see 3, but there are total 5 sandalwood images representing Padmanabha, the 3 founding Lambas of Sikkim, and the first king, Punstok Namgyal, constitute an example of Sikkimese art. So the term they are saying Sikkimese art is related to here sculpting or idol making. And then they cover, so if you will see, the main deity is covered with the cloth and the other deities are made with the cloth, like that sculpted clothes are sculpted over there. So in the museum itself, they are practicing the religious practices, which is like covering the deity as per the weather with the clothes and things like that. So this is again a very interesting thing about the museum. Is museum is a temple, or can you call museum a temple because there are idols, and some museums are practicing those idols or into the religious practices, how the religious practices are done in temple. But that's again a very debatable topic. We will not go into it. And then there is another, which is, so keeping this relics is very important aspect of Buddhism. Somewhere in Hinduism, with the relics, we try to like put it into Ganga or put it somewhere. So we get a part of it, like, okay, the soul is relieved now and it attains the moksha. And same moksha happens in Buddhism also, but with the relics particularly, they try to keep the relics of the important people or the saints. So this particular museum has a casket containing the relics of 2 great Asokan missionaries, that is Madhyama and Kashyapa Gotra. That is one of the precious assets of this museum. 5 sandalwood images representing, so the same. And and then we go further. So as I told you, they have a very rich collection of manuscripts, and manuscripts well written, like way back in 12th century, in Chinese, in Tibetan, in Sanskrit. So they have dedicated themselves to conserve, research, and collect the manuscripts related to Mahayana Buddhism. They also have a library where you can go and access many printed manuscripts, but you cannot issue them. That's one big flaw I found. Like for an for a person who is in Sikkim, living as a Sikkim citizen, he can't get a membership and issue books to read at home, which are like the modern prints of the books. So that's one thing I noticed. So if you look at the inner gallery view of the museum, so you see how they have aesthetically very well decorated the museum, like the paintings over the wood, the Sikkim style, over the roof, and then they have the main deity just in front, and on the sides they have all the collections. So aesthetically, it all looks very beautiful. But if we are talking about the museum aspects, there is a very important aspect of communication. Communication between the objects and communication between the audience. So for many people, even for you, if you are like inviting somebody to your place, for you things might seem like very natural. Yeah, people should know it. There is a towel there and people should wash their hand and use that towel. But in museums, we don't look at things like it is very understandable. We need to make it understand what this is, why particular statue is made with panchadhatu and why not with clay, why we are worshipping something is placed above. It may sound very logical that yeah, that deity should be above, but then if we talk about the museum communication, there is a need in particularly this museum. If it is done, it will be like very nice, explaining the iconography, explaining the origin of that particular collection, explaining the region behind, explaining the cultural influence on that particular collection. That is one point which I felt that this museum needs in. Aesthetically, they have decorated it well. So going further, these are some details about if you visit the museum, what you can find there. So museum entry is free and collection is one of the best in Sikkim. Lighting is very proper. Showcases are very well lit, well maintained, and differently able friendly. Like you can access it. Average duration to visit this museum is 1 to 2 hours. Sunday it is closed, and to visit it is 10 to 4, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. They have a nice cafeteria. They have a nice museum shop. Parking is available, and they also have a website which is under this, so you can research, you can read the journals, and you can also contact them on this particular website. Now going further, we are now talking about the Directorate of Handicrafts and Handlooms. So about the Directorates of Handicrafts and Handlooms, so it began in 1957. Sikkim became part of India in 1975, and before that, all this started to happen under the rule of monarchy. So 1957, when it was established, the Plenden Tempu Cottage Industry Institute Training and Production of the Traditional Art and Craft, which was the name. So with 58 trainees, which were dedicated to promote the handicrafts and handloom of Sikkim, this particular institute started. So the primary objective was not only to preserve and showcase the traditional art, as I told you, of Sikkim, but to promote and disseminate the information regarding the policy orientation of the government in setting the highest standard comparable to the best in the world of arts and crafts. So again, the focus was majorly on training. And if we look at it, training is the best way to communicate the heritage, the culture. If somebody know how to do it, he will obviously become keen to preserve it, keen to exhibit it, and keen to feel proud about the heritage. So it is also known as GC, the Handicrafts and Handloom, and the museum was founded during the Chogyal Sikkim in the monarchy. So if you look at few collections of it, so they have like the shawls, they have masks, they have jackets, clothes, every handicraft and handloom there is. And then they are very dedicated towards the training of making thanka painting, which is a very reserved art practiced by the Buddhists. Not everyone is allowed to practice that. And then their local paper making. So these are a few aims and objective. I like to put it there. I will just read it once and we will go further about the Directorate of Handicrafts and Handlooms. So the main objective of its Directorate of Handicrafts and Handloom are as follows: to be major center of learning, training, traditional arts and crafts of the state, preserve and revive the linguistic, ethnic, traditional arts and crafts of the state, achieve a high level of human participation and skill development through capacity and skill upgradation program, tap the employment and income generation potential of the handloom and handicraft sector, promote and disseminate the information regarding the policy orientation, schemes of the state and central government, develop Sikkim into a leading handicraft and handloom destination both in India and globally. So, in order to do that, they have these things in their craft section, which is handloom weaving, thanka painting, wood carving, carpet weaving, cane and bamboo craft, wooden mask, soft toys, multi crafts, handmade paper, angora shawls. So all these you will also find this common in every state of northeast region. But if you look at Sikkim, this wood carving and angora shawls with handmade papers is something which Sikkim is expert in. So just a pictorial view of the collections or the things they are making and preserving. So if you look at the collections in handicrafts, they mainly are jute and bamboo stuff. And then they have some decorations for the houses. So they decorate their houses and the religious places with such decorations. They have specific iconography why a seashell is used here. Why, if you see closely, you see a sword and a shield here, and things like that. This is again a very beautiful example of Sikkim art and craft, which is a mirror, and the frame is made by wood, and this wood is entirely handcrafted. Going further about their handlooms, so these are the handlooms, the authentic Sikkim dressing. So if we talk about Sikkim or you talk about the entire region of Northeast, you will find different dresses, different ways of taking the shawls and different prints on the shawl. And same in Sikkim. As I told you, there are only three main communities in Sikkim, but still there are sub communities, and that's why they have different styles of clothing, different ways to wear it. And this particular institute is very well, I'll say very well, like not just up to the mark, above the mark. They are promoting, they are participating into the development of art and craft and preservation of art and craft. And they also have a museum for this at few places. They have only uh, selling points like a museum shop, but near the capital they have a museum there which have a very well parking area, very nice museum shop, cafeteria and everything. So as I told you, the exclusive handmade paper is another specialty which is made from the bark of algae tree. So in total, they have 65 centers training in Sikkim, training and craft centers all over the Sikkim parking. And Sunday they are closed. Visiting hour is 10 to 4. Entry fee is 15 rupees for the adults, and children below 12 are free. Again, they also have a website. You can buy the products from their website. And these two museums, which we talked till now, is Namgyal Institute of Theology and Directorates of Handicraft and Handloom, is like the best museums in Sikkim if you talk from an outsider's perspective. And These museums, especially Directorate of Handicrafts and Handloom, is working very well with the people. So, like Namgyal Institute of Tibetology is about Tibetology. The collection is rich, of course. The museum is beautiful, but it's not working with the people. It's researching. It's collecting the um, artifacts and collection related to Mahayana Buddhism, which is still going on. They are increasing their collection every year. They have a very dedicated team towards collecting, but they're not talking about the people of Sikkim. But this particular institution, this particular museum is talking about the Directorate of Handicraft. So now we go further, and this museum is called Black Cat Museum. So what Black Cat is? Black Cat is a division of army situated in Sikkim. So they also have their museum, and by far I can say this is one of the best army museum in India. They have very well documented the wars, the arms and ammunitions, and the tactics, and the scenically very strategical layouts, and everything is very well done inside. The photography is not allowed inside, and I was not able to find photos online too, so that's why we don't have pictures of inside. But they have like very systematically museologically approached galleries, which is like with the timeline with each and every detail. So if we go detail wise, if we go chronological order wise, and if we go collection wise, this is one of the best museum in a museological aspect of being a museum, which is run and maintained by army. So a state of art museum has been created in Gangtok to showcase the rich history of the state Sikkim. The museum consists mesmerizing photo galleries showcasing rich history, culture, tradition, and everything. And this museum also have a audio guide. So, but this is mostly dedicated to the army museum, and their tagline goes is "Know Your Army." So this museum is run and maintained by the armed forces. The collection are related to the military arms, ammunition, medals, uniforms. Very well documented and exhibited. The orientation of this museum is very informative, and not just the gallery orientation, gallery introduction, but each and every object is being very well described, and in very suitable range of words. The location of museum is very accessible. That's also a very plus point to it. So on the main highway, when you travel Sikkim, you go to the capital Gangtok. This museum is very accessible one, and you can easily visit the museum. Canteen services, so they have also dedicated services towards the audience entertainment in respect to the food, like the canteen services. Parking is there. They have a small garden outside. So in overall, this is a place to visit and understand the military and army activities in Sikkim, and what they are doing, how they are doing, what problems they are facing, and how they are guarding the international border of the India in the region of Sikkim. So I guess I already told you about the Black Cat Division. So this is the logo of Black Cat Division, which somebody serving in Black Cat Division wears at their right hand in shoulder. So this is a infantry type division of the army, and these are the few details. Like they have served British India, Indian, British Army. So going further, the next museum is Ganju Lama War Museum. So this is again a museum built by army, dedicated to army person whose name was Ganju Lama. So this is only museum in Sikkim which is conceptualized as a tribute to brave soldiers. So not only him, they have tributed like all the martyrs there who gave their lives for the country. But Ganju Lama is a very big name in Indian Army, a very big celebrity in Sikkim, who was in armed forces. And why so? Because he is the only one getting Victoria Cross and military medal, and Victoria Cross was the highest award during the British time to a soldier. So this is his name, Gamsto Sen Pandra. And the name Ganju became because of a clerical mistake. Somebody wrote his name Ganju, and it became So he was the man, and Sikkim still remembers the glory. Sikkim still lives the glory of him, and there are many places in Sikkim, many doorways. In the when you visit a hilly region, you will find doorways towards a particular district, and many doorways are named after it. So he's a very big celebrity in Sikkim, you can say. And this is the museum dedicated to him on the right side. And on the left side, you see a cannon. So the only cannon is out there, and inside they have few photographic collections. Very small museum it is, but still, if we talk about the presence of museum in this land, at this altitude, at this inaccessible area, it's very remarkable feature that they have thought about it and they have built a museum here. So in this respect, Ganjulama War Museum is a very educative approach, a very informative approach towards the idea of museums in Sikkim, you can say. And then Ram Gauri Sangrahalaya. So this is a private museum. The entire collection is by the dedication of these two people who are in same family, two generations, and the name is on them, Ram Gauri Sangrahalaya. Is an home to ethnographic objects like driftwood, artistic stones, utensils, old documents related to the state, and state here they are talking about newspapers. They are talking about articles related to Sikkim, journals published about the Sikkims. They have collected it. So that's the thing. And then manuscripts, coins, stamps. In the museum library, there is a library. One can also find Sanskrit documents, which probably date back to the 18th century. So this is a private collection. The pity is they are not getting any fund or any support from government or private institutions to conserve it. If you will see the rightmost image about the collections of documents there. So books are the most fragile objects in a museum collection, and you can see the conditions there. So that is one bad side of it. Even though these private museums try their best to conserve, try their best to preserve things, but with lack of funds, it's very difficult to maintain this. There are few details about Ram Gauri Sangrahalaya, that is the type of museum it is. They have multiple collections. 2001 they established it. On Sundays it is closed, but you can visit this museum anytime if you call them before or let them know before. These are the fee structure. So the fee is so that they can maintain the museum. So this slide is particularly about the collection. I'll just read it. Ram Gauri Sangrahalaya collection includes documents telling the story of political development of the former Himalayan kingdom of the Sikkim and the tax receipts that give us a glimpse of the feudal times of the pre-independence era. This also includes bank receipts issued by the First Bank of Sikkim, Bhojraj and Jetumal Bank, the First Bank of Sikkim. Despite the commendable archival efforts of its owner, who manages the entire expenditure of the museum on its own, with greater resource the museum could spend on modern scientific process necessary for preservation of its invaluable collection. The same thing, like he is managing the museum on his own, and he needs basically some funding from the government, from the private institute. Now moving further, there is and Lepcha Museum is one museum again dedicated to the people of Sikkim, because Lepcha is a community which is like a very old ethnographic, very old cultural community of Sikkim, and this museum exhibits the ethnographical and organic, inorganic collections of that particular community. So about the Lepchas, they are also called Rangkup, and they are called Lepchas or Rangkup. The meaning is children of God, and then the God is the Himalayas. So they are the people who made Sikkim. They are the people who are the behind the origin of Sikkim. And Lepchas are among the Lepchas are among the indigenous people of Sikkim, India, and Nepal. The number is around 80,000 only. These are a few details about the population where Lepchas are. And Lepchas are known for their unique weaving and basketry skills. So in 2003, this museum was established. It is open every day, and visiting hour of the museum is so many times you call it. It's open every day. 10 to 4 is the time, and there is some entry fee, which I'm not sure what how much it is, but it's a very small museum, so it takes like 1 hour to visit the place. This is the museum, and you see they have way too much collection, all related to the Lepchas, all related to their heritage. But again, we talk about the museological approach to it. The collection is just a collection and the exhibition, and the communication part of it is lacking behind. So going further, so I talk about it. We already talked about it. How the museum is reflecting the Lepcha culture and things. So these were the few museums in Sikkim. And now I will just talk about 10 minutes about the role of museums in Sikkim and the SWOT analysis of what we read so far and how to answer few questions related to the museological aspects of representation in Sikkim. So museum's role in Sikkim is related to four parts here. That is representation, education, information center, and respiratory of living culture. So we have already discussed how the problem of representation is there and how it should be an educational point. So very fast, I will just skip to the slides. Like, so this is the problem of representation in any museum you will see. So this is called the cultural iceberg. So when we visit a museum, you see the easy to see layer: language, folklore, dress, fine arts, literature, holidays and festivals, and food. These are the most covered topics of a museum. And then below comes the more versatile reason of it. So uh, in world level, if we talk about some museums which are going deep into the iceberg, is like Museum of Modern Arts, MoMA. And what are these? So when museums also like and later on when they attain a maturity collection, they should talk about the below the difficult to see iceberg things. That is, for example, like notions and modesty, humors, gender roles. They have to talk about the body language and things like that. So Sikkim is being represented in its museum collection wise, but the communication between the audiences and the collection lags behind, as the descriptions need to be more informative. This is my take on the all the museums I have visited and researched on. Then the education wise, we can say like not just Sikkim, but entire India. We can convert, we can take students to the museum, and we need to have classes there. Not just a visit to the museum, but we need to settle down the students there. And then we have to give them time to absorb this new experience of learning and talk about the tangible aspects of the theory they are reading in their books. So in Sikkim also, there are some schools which dedicate themselves to the museum, which go to the museums every year. But there is a need to add the level of students to it, add the secondary standard students, secondary education students to it, college graduates to it. And also they, because they lack behind the human resources, they need to add courses, certificate courses or things like that, which is related to the museology or museum studies. Information center, we discussed this part, how a museum can act as an information center for small states. And then the respiratory of living culture. So here again, I am talking about the eco museums. So how eco museums can be established very well in settings of Sikkim, and how it can not only exhibit, showcase, but also promote, also let the tradition live a bit longer in the authentic way. So which in case of Sikkim, it will be very highly efficient to establish a eco-museum. So what museums are in need of in Sikkim, basically, there is a need of infrastructure. And by infrastructure, I'm not talking about Sikkim need world-class museum buildings or control relative humidity and stuff, or the showcases. I'm just talking about more space. So as I visited the museums there, I saw like they can add on more space without not much cost, and which can promote the public gathering, which can accommodate more collection, and which can organize other activities related to the students, related to the people visiting there, and also add space for parking and other functions. Then trained human resources. There is a very vast problem of migration. Sikkim ranks third in national ranking of the elementary education. That means like the education system is very sound, but then people migrate for their job. People go out of Sikkim, and then they lack the trained human resources in many fields, and so in museums. So overall, there is a need to introduce courses like museology or dynamic approaches of museums to be studied, and then people should be employed. So in other states of India, there is also a category where they promote the indigenous community, like Lepchas for Lepcha Museum, or Lepcha curator for a Lepcha museum. That should also be done. Conservation wise, Sikkim museums lag a way behind, because the main focus now, what I saw, was collecting and exhibiting. The communication and conservation part was very less. So for this, there should be a conservation center in Sikkim. There should be one conservation center in every state, I'll say, where all the museums can send their collections for checking for conservations and stuff. Local area reach wise, again, I told you, like the biggest museums of Sikkim, the NIT, Namgyal Institute of Tibetology, is not dealing with the local people. Directorate is dealing with the local people, but the other museums are also not dealing with the local people. Army Museum is not dealing with the local people. So there is a need for the museums to generate a sense of awareness in them that leads to a healthy and mutually contributing relationship of the local population and the museum established there. So museums should not be approached an isolated establishment, which is like not a part of society, but museums are part and parcel of society. The population around the museum makes the museum, which is a need in Sikkim Museum. So these are some points to ponder about Sikkim and related to the museum. That is, Sikkim is India's third richest state after Delhi and Chandigarh as per the per capita income. Literacy rate in Sikkim is India's 7th. So you see, money and education wise, Sikkim is very sound. And with respect to the museum communication, they can easily step up, but there is just a need for awareness in the local community. And for the outsiders, there is a need of communication. So awareness for the locals and communication with the outsiders can very benefit the museums of Sikkim. So Article 371F grants special provision Sikkim, which prohibits the sale and purchase of land property to the outsiders, and it like makes it difficult for the other people to invest in museum properties or go out there and establish an organization and build a museum. So this two things have to be like, these are some points I thought about. If they work on it, they can easily upgrade their museum standard. And then at the end, many people can ask, like, this is the entire problem of India, this is the entire problem of the third world country. So this particular slide is about how to make an equilibrium in respect to the cultural environment, economic environment, social and natural environment, in respect to the monetary policy, in respect representation of the local area, in respect to the communication with the outsiders. A museum can make an equilibrium. And how can it become a self-sustained museum? How can it for many museums right now in India, there is a need for government funding, but with that government funding, we are not talking about continuous government funding. So what museums can do, take government funding and then initiate this process of equilibrium work in this circle and then make their museums self-sustained. And in order to do so, they have to do different activities, which activities are listed here. And then only museums can be approached or seen as self-sustained institutions which are promoting the culture, which are promoting the area and communicating with the people, and then people will be interested to witness it. So that's it. We talked about the museums of Sikkim, we talked about the problems, we talked about everything, and thank you everyone here. Yashaswini, my research fellow from Sikkim, her inputs were uh, very helpful, and special thanks to B.R. Bob Desar for this lecture, for conveying this lecture. So thank you. If there are any questions.
किसी को अगर कुछ सवाल है तो पूछ लीजिए। बोबड़े सर को थोड़ा आने के लिए टाइम लगेगा, कुछ टेक्निकल इशू के लिए वो आउट हो गए हैं।
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me, please?
Yes. Yes.
Vikram Bhardwaj, I have two questions. First of all,
Yes.
are there any particular specific museums regarding Tankas? That is a special Buddhist painting you can look for. Can you tell me about that?
About the Thangka paintings?
Yes, any specific museum dedicated to Thangka paintings only. And the second question is, you talked about Black Cat's museum. I want to know, in that particular Black Cat museum, where only this particular, the 17th Infantry Regiment is put forward, or a general history of other army particular regiments are also there?
I will just repeat what you said because the voice is breaking. First thing you want to know is about the Thangka paintings, right?
Yes, yes.
And about the Thangka paintings, like the style and everything, I'll tell you. So Thangka painting is basically a scroll and wall painting, but mostly Thangka paintings are done over a scroll. So there are various backgrounds you can choose for Thangka painting, but the most important part of a Thangka painting is layering. So the art and crafts of Buddhist Mahayana, or you can say Hinayana, Mahayana, both, is very well connected to the meditation part. You're getting me?
Okay.
So whatever art they practice, they are practiced in a manner that they go deep into the meditation.
Okay.
So same is with this scroll painting. If you will Google it, you will see there are different layers to it. So they start with putting the layers, they start with making the face, and at the end they make the face, and then they decorate it very calmly and very slowly. They do it, and that's the part of their meditational practice. But later on, what happened when this art became economical or monetized wise? So because there is so much dedication to it, to the Thangka paintings, and these scrolls, when they make Thangka paintings, they recite their spiritual and their religious hymns. So they are basically making it into a dedicated idol to be worshipped. So that's why they preserved it. And when they preserved it, it became very valuable to them. So Thangka painting is that part. And then you talked about the Black Cat Museum. Hello? Hello?
yes sir, बोलिए आवाज आ रही है।
Yes sir, I can hear you.
The next question was about the Black Cat Museum, right?
Yes sir.
What specifically, like what about Black Cat Museum?
It is specifically for Black Cat, or for it is depicting the history of other regiments also?
No. It's basically the activity of Black Cats in Sikkim, and not much about the further regimentaries, like not dealing with.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Hello?
किसी को कुछ सवाल है तो पूछिए, ये तो हम आज यहीं पे रुकते हैं। Anyone else? ठीक है, कोई नहीं है। थैंक यू पृथ्वीराज सर और थैंक यू ऑल पार्टिसिपेट। आज का सेशन हम यही
Thank you.
खत्म करते हैं। सभी को अपने आप से लेफ्ट होना है।
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.